I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Did you know that this legendary line wasn't even in the original script? Roddy Piper improvised it on set from his personal notebook of wrestling catchphrases. They Live is John Carpenter's savage satire of Reagan-era consumerism, a cult classic that revealed the hidden messages controlling society through special sunglasses. But behind those iconic black and white subliminal messages, behind that legendary 5-minute alley fight, lies a production story filled with wrestling legends, studio sabotage, improvised movie history, and real-world paranoia that proved more prophetic than anyone could have imagined. Here are 20 weird facts about They Live that will make you see this film in a completely different way. Fact 1. The A-list actors who almost wore the sunglasses. Before Roddy Piper became the drifter named Nada, John Carpenter considered an extraordinary list of Hollywood's biggest stars. Tom Cruise was seriously considered, fresh off Top Gun's massive success. Harrison Ford was on the shortlist. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, even Jean-Claude Van Damme were all in the running. Kurt Russell seemed like the obvious choice. They'd already made 3 films together, but he was exhausted from Big Trouble in Little China and committed to Tequila Sunrise. Then, fate intervened at WrestleMania 3 on March 29th, 1987, in Pontiac, Michigan. Carpenter attended the event and met Roddy Piper backstage. Brother, life's a bitch, and she's back in heat. That raw authenticity convinced Carpenter immediately. In a Starlog interview, Carpenter explained, unlike most Hollywood actors, Roddy has life written all over him. He has been hit so many times that he is really broken up. He's the toughest guy I've met. Piper brought his own wardrobe from home to the audition. Those worn jeans and that plaid shirt were actually from his closet. He understood poverty. Having been homeless himself before wrestling saved his life. Fact 2. The fight scene that John Wayne inspired. That alley fight between Nada and Frank lasted 5 minutes and 20 seconds, making it one of the longest fight scenes in cinema history. But here's what's incredible. The original script contained just 3 words for the entire sequence. They fight. Nothing else.
Put on the glasses!
Became the film's most quoted line after the bubblegum quote. Roddy Piper and Keith David rehearsed for 3 full weeks in Carpenter's own backyard. Carpenter deliberately modeled it after the legendary brawl between John Wayne and Victor McLaglen in The Quiet Man from 1952. They performed every single stunt themselves. No doubles, no safety pads, genuinely hitting each other except for face and groin shots. Keith David actually bruised his ribs during filming, but kept going. Piper later revealed that 5 additional minutes were actually cut from the sequence. The full fight originally ran over 10 minutes. David called it some of the most fun I've ever had on a film set. Rotten Tomatoes later ranked it 7th on their list of the 20 greatest fight scenes ever. The fight works on multiple levels. It's simultaneously absurd and profound, representing how violently people resist seeing uncomfortable truths about their reality. Fact 3. The recycled sunglasses from another film. Those reality-revealing sunglasses weren't bought for They Live at all. The production's entire budget was just $4 million, considered extremely low even for 1988. To put that in perspective, Die Hard came out the same year with a $28 million budget. The props department couldn't afford to buy new sunglasses, so they raided the storage room from Carpenter's previous films. They found leftover sunglasses from Big Trouble in Little China and repurposed them. The glasses resembled Ray-Ban Drifter-style frames, but were actually cheap knockoffs. The special effects team faced an even bigger challenge. They had to create hundreds of subliminal message props. Every billboard, magazine, newspaper, and piece of money with hidden text had to be painted by hand. The fictional name Hoffman lenses used in the film might reference activist Abby Hoffman or LSD inventor Albert Hoffman. Carpenter has never confirmed which. Today, Authentic screen-used pairs from the film sell for thousands at Hollywood memorabilia auctions. One pair sold for $12,000 in 2019. Fact 4. The studio's desperate attempt to destroy the message. Universal executives tried everything imaginable to gut the film's anti-capitalist message. They wanted Carpenter to change the aliens from being metaphors for the ruling class into literal cannibals from outer space. The studio was terrified of political commentary during the Reagan era. They sent Carpenter pages and pages of notes demanding changes. His response was to ignore them completely. The world needs a wake-up call. Gentlemen,
we're gonna phone it in.
That line captured Carpenter's attitude perfectly. He designed the film as what he called a primal scream against Reaganomics. When executives threatened to pull funding mid-production, Carpenter's solution was brilliant. He shot even faster, wrapping the entire production in just 8 weeks from March to April 1988. By the time the studio realized he hadn't made their changes, it was too late. The film was done, and they couldn't afford to reshoot everything. Fact 5. The gang protection money nobody talks about. Filming in downtown Los Angeles required more than just shooting permits. Carpenter had to pay off multiple local gangs for protection. This wasn't unusual for 1980s LA productions, but the amounts were staggering for such a low-budget film. Different gangs controlled different streets, each demanding separate payments. The production filmed at North Boylston Street and Colton Street, paying thousands in cash. One day, a rival gang showed up during filming, not knowing protection had already been arranged. The situation could have turned violent. Roddy Piper, still in character as Nada, walked over to defuse the situation. When they recognized him from WWF wrestling, everything changed instantly. They were huge fans. Piper spent an hour talking wrestling, signing autographs, demonstrating moves. The gang members ended up as unpaid extras in several crowd scenes. Carpenter later said Piper's wrestling fame probably saved them thousands more in protection money. Fact 6. The 6-page story that started everything. The entire film was based on a short story that was only 5 to 6 pages long. 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson was published in 1963 in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Carpenter discovered it in a sci-fi anthology and immediately recognized its potential. But Nelson's original story was even more disturbing than the film. The aliens were called fascinators and looked like Lovecraftian nightmares with multiple eyes and tentacles. There were no sunglasses in the story. The protagonist gained awareness through accidental hypnosis at a variety show. Carpenter added the sunglasses as a brilliant metaphor. You have to choose to see reality. It's not forced upon you. He simplified the aliens to look like humanity with all its humanity burned away, because he wanted them to represent how power corrupts and dehumanizes. Nelson's story ended with the hero dying immediately after destroying the alien transmitter. Carpenter changed it to leave hope that humanity could wake up and fight back. Years later, Nelson said he was amazed how Carpenter expanded his brief nightmare into a full mythology. Fact 7. The Saturn Award-nominated score. John Carpenter always composed his own film scores. It was his trademark. But They Live almost broke that tradition for unexpected reasons. He and longtime collaborator Alan Howarth created the score at Electric Melody Studios in Glendale. They used a completely different approach than Carpenter's usual synthesizer-heavy style. For the first time, they incorporated blues guitar and harmonica. The main theme used just 4 notes, repeated in hypnotic variations. Critics initially dismissed it as aggressively minimal, but that was exactly the point. Carpenter wanted the music to feel like subliminal programming itself. The score earned a Saturn Award nomination for Best Music, competing against Danny Elfman's Beetlejuice and Alan Silvestri's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Those were massive productions with full orchestral scores. Carpenter later said the minimalist approach perfectly matched the film's guerrilla aesthetic. Fact 8. The real homeless camp Carpenter hired. The shantytown where Nada lives wasn't a constructed set. Carpenter found an actual homeless encampment in East Los Angeles and made a radical decision. He hired the real residents to appear in the film at full union wages. Every homeless person who appeared on screen received the same Screen Actors Guild day rate as professional extras. Roddy Piper called it a pretty classy thing to do. Several residents became protective of Piper and taught him real survival techniques between takes. One man named Detroit showed him how to hide weapons in boots, a detail that made it into the film. The production provided 3 meals a day for the entire camp throughout filming. After filming wrapped, Piper returned every week for 6 months with his own money, bringing food and supplies. The irony was powerful. A film about economic oppression was providing actual economic relief to the oppressed. Fact 9. The Forgotten Box Office. Victory. They Live opened at number 1 at the box office, earning $4.8 million on its opening weekend. This fact surprises even die-hard fans because the film is remembered as a cult classic that found its audience later. Critics absolutely savaged it, with one calling it Carpenter's career suicide note. You see them on the street. You watch them on TV. That warning became reality. The film ultimately earned $13 million against its $4 million budget. But home video transformed everything. VHS rentals were astronomical, consistently ranking in the top 10 for months. Video store clerks reported customers renting it repeatedly. The film found its real audience, people who understood its message wasn't science fiction, but documentary. The Rotten Tomatoes score now sits at 87%. Critics, who originally dismissed it, later called it prophetic, especially after the 2008 financial crisis. Fact 10. The glass matte paintings that fooled everyone. Most of the film's impressive cityscape shots were optical illusions. The production couldn't afford helicopters for aerial shots. Instead, they hired veteran matte painter Peter Caron to create movie magic the old-fashioned way. Those wide shots of Los Angeles, filled with subliminal billboards, were hand-painted on massive sheets of glass. The technique was already considered antiquated by 1988. Caron would paint directly onto glass, leaving specific areas clear for live action. The camera would film through the painted glass, combining everything in a single shot. No post-production needed, saving thousands. Caron completed all the matte work in just 2 weeks, working 18-hour days. The paintings were so photorealistic that viewers assumed they were expensive location shoots. The paint was still wet on some shots. Fact 11. The bubblegum line's wrestling origins. That legendary bubblegum line came from Roddy Piper's personal notebook of wrestling catchphrases. He'd been collecting one-liners for years. When Carpenter set up the bank scene, the script simply said, "Nada enters with shotgun." Carpenter told Piper, "Say something before you start shooting." Piper pulled out his notebook right there on set and found the line.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
One take. Perfect. Interestingly, a similar line appeared in the 1973 film 5 on the Black Hand side. Duke Nukem later stole it verbatim. It's been voted one of the greatest action movie one-liners ever. Piper never received royalties for any of its uses. Fact 12. South Park's secret shot-for-shot recreation. South Park recreated the entire alley fight shot for shot in their episode Cripple Fight. Matt Stone and Trey Parker didn't tell Comedy Central executives. They submitted the episode normally, with no mention of the homage. Every punch, every kick, every camera angle perfectly matched Carpenter's original. When the episode aired, film buffs immediately recognized it. Carpenter found out when fans started calling him. He loved it, calling it the greatest compliment. Parker and Stone said it was simultaneously the most ridiculous and meaningful fight ever filmed. They chose it because it perfectly represented how people fight to avoid confronting uncomfortable realities. Fact 13. The street art revolution. It launched. They Live accidentally launched the modern street art movement. Shepard Fairey, creator of the Obama Hope poster, explicitly credits the film for his entire OBEY campaign. Consume, obey, conform. These messages became global. The film showed how advertising manipulates, Fairey explained. In 2016, over 30 U.S. billboard companies refused to display Trump parody billboards based on the film. Mexico City was the first to display them in 2017. Eventually, they appeared in Times Square. Banksy also cites They Live as his primary influence. The film's aesthetic, black and white messages revealing hidden truths, became protest art's visual language worldwide. Fact 14. The Alien Redesign Crisis. The original Alien designs were completely different. Ray Nelson's story described Lovecraftian monsters with multiple eyes and tentacles. The effects team spent weeks creating elaborate prosthetics, but Carpenter rejected them after one test. Marry and reproduce. The aliens needed to reflect corrupted humanity. The redesign happened in just 48 hours. Effects artist Francisco Perez based the final look on medical photos of burn victims. The actors couldn't see through the contact lenses and kept walking into walls. Makeup took 4 hours every morning. Carpenter wanted them to look like capitalism had literally burned away their souls. Fact 15. Meg Foster's controversial natural eyes. Meg Foster's unnaturally pale blue eyes result from low melanin levels, a rare genetic trait. Throughout her career, producers made her wear brown contacts because her eyes were too distracting. Studio executives said she looked like an alien even without makeup. They demanded Carpenter darken her eyes. He refused, nearly shutting down production. The standoff lasted days. Carpenter won by arguing her otherworldly appearance was perfect for the film. They Live was the first film where Foster showed her natural eye color. Ironically, viewers thought they were special effects and wrote letters asking how they achieved the look. Fact 16. The persistent wrestling myth. Despite rumors lasting 30 years, Roddy Piper was the only professional wrestler in the cast. Carpenter has confirmed this repeatedly on DVD commentaries. People claim to spot various WWF stars as aliens or guards. They're all wrong. The confusion stems from Piper's wrestling style, completely infusing his performance. IMDb had to repeatedly remove false wrestler credits. The myth became so persistent that wrestling magazines published articles about wrestlers who weren't even in the film. Fact 17. The anti-capitalist message that survived. When Universal executives saw the final cut, they tried to bury it.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Only 870 theaters, no TV advertising, no press tours. This backfired spectacularly. The lack of studio promotion made it feel genuinely underground. Word spread that Hollywood was trying to suppress something dangerous. Critics who might have dismissed a major release embraced it as authentic rebellion. Carpenter later said the studio's suppression amplified the message. Fact 18. The revolutionary preacher's real activism. Raymond Saint-Jacques improvised most of his street preacher sermon. He was a noted anti-apartheid activist, arrested at the South African Embassy in 1985. He asked Carpenter if he could incorporate real revolutionary rhetoric from his activism. The 30-second scripted scene became 3 minutes of genuine passion. Carpenter kept every camera rolling. Saint-Jacques spent his final years teaching media literacy in inner-city schools using They Live. He died in 1990, but teachers still use his curriculum today. Fact 19. The accidental digital prophecy. Keith David ad-libbed dialogue about digital technology that didn't exist yet. He'd been reading about experimental digital television and thought it sounded futuristic. 20 years later, when America switched to digital broadcasting, conspiracy theorists cited this scene as proof Carpenter knew secret government plans. But it goes deeper. The film predicted social media algorithms, targeted advertising, and surveillance capitalism. David now calls They Live accidentally documentary. He believes it becomes more relevant every year. Fact 20. The theater panic that nearly ended Carpenter's career. Monday after the opening weekend, something unprecedented happened. Multiple theater chains started pulling the film, not for poor performance, but because audiences were literally fighting in lobbies about its meaning. Some thought it was communist propaganda. Others thought it was anti-communist. Several actual fistfights broke out. The film dropped from 870 to 250 screens in 1 week. Carpenter thought his directing career was over. He didn't make another theatrical film for 4 years. But the controversy created massive underground demand. Bootlegs circulated everywhere. College campuses held secret screenings. It became exactly what Carpenter intended, a rallying cry for those questioning the system. Bonus fact: the spontaneous global graffiti movement. Within weeks of release, obey and consume graffiti appeared worldwide. But here's what's incredible. There was no marketing campaign, no organization. People independently started recreating the film's messages on walls. From New York to Tokyo to Berlin, the same words appeared overnight. Carpenter never trademarked the phrases. Put on the glasses became code for awakening to reality. Lawyers told him he could make millions from merchandise. He refused, saying that would defeat the entire point. During Occupy Wall Street, thousands of protesters wore They Live sunglasses. The film's visual language became the aesthetic of global resistance. They Live remains more relevant today than when it was released, a brutal satire that became actual prophecy about media manipulation, algorithmic control, and the hidden messages shaping our reality. Its message continues waking people up, one pair of sunglasses at a time. What movie's weird facts should we reveal next?